State prosecutors will respond today to a court ruling ordering the review of a 2009 decision to drop 783 corruption charges against President Jacob Zuma. The High Court ruled last month that the decision by the National Prosecuting Authority to drop the charges was irrational and should be reviewed. Well, we've got our signal up and running once again with SABC reporter Aldrin Sampear. He's in Pretoria. Aldrin, I know you were giving us a little bit of a brief background of this case. I'm going to ask you to do it again because we were sort of catching your words in and out. So let's try. Let's just give us that background on the so-called spy tapes.
Yep. Well, you remember that it has been the DA that has been trying to get the charges against President Jacob Zuma reinstated, and it started back a couple of years ago when the then NPA acting head Mkoterimse decided to drop those charges, the 783 corruption charges against President Jacob Zuma. First of all, what they had to try and do as the DA is trying to get a hold of the so-called spy tapes. Now, the so-called spy tapes are conversations between the then NPA boss as well as the Scorpions boss around the timing on when to charge President Jacob Zuma, back in 2008 when it was just before the Polokwane conference. And then Kotorimse, when he got a hold of these tapes, as we heard in those transcripts read out by the judge president during the ruling on this matter, where he indicated that actually Kotorimse was irrational when he took that decision to drop those charges, because he was angry at the conversation that had taken place, and he believed that there was abuse of power between the then NPA boss as well as the Scorpions boss at the time, when they were discussing when to reinstate the charges against President Jacob Zuma. And now it's back to where we are at the moment, where the NPA will have to make a decision whether to reinstate the charges or either take the matter on appeal. And some indication from all sides seems to be that the NPA will take the decision actually to rather appeal this matter and probably argue around the issue of separation of power.
All right. Aldrin, can you elaborate on what some of the corruption charges are? What do they involve?
Well, remember that when Sampear Sheikh was convicted a couple of years ago, and when the NPA decided to prosecute Sampear Sheikh, and he was eventually found guilty by Judge Hilary Squires. And remember that there's been this famous quote where everybody has actually misquoted the judge president, the Judge Squires, saying there was a politically corrupt relationship between Sampear Sheikh, who was the financial advisor of President Jacob Zuma, as well as Jacob Zuma. And Judge Squires, of course, refuted those assertions or comments attributed to him. And it was actually the prosecutors that made the case that actually President Jacob Zuma at the time had a corrupt relationship with Sampear Sheikh. And these cases relate to the company Tint, where it has been said that there were some monies or bribes given to President Jacob Zuma so that Tint could benefit through the arms deal. And you remember that there was the arms deal commission that was called by President Jacob Zuma, and there was no wrongdoing found. There was no officials were actually found to be in the wrong with regards to what happened during the arms deal.
Before we lose you, it sounds like that signal's breaking up again. Just that final question I need to ask you. Aldrin, what are the chances of the NPA announcing it will appeal the High Court's decision, that they review their decision to drop the charges against President Zuma?
They're quite strong, actually, that the NPA will say that we want to appeal the decision, or rather appeal the ruling by the High Court. Because remember that even listening to the transcripts, through the transcripts of the hearing where the full bench of the High Court, the North Gauteng High Court, was listening to the matter, it was the NPA's conviction that at the time when they took the decision, it was the right decision to be taken. However, though, Judge Lidwaba did make the case that it seemed irrational, considering that heading into the case a few days before the decision was taken to drop the charges, the NPA acting boss then, Mkoterimse, was believed believed rather that they have a strong case against President Jacob Zuma, and it couldn't be understood why this conversation between Bulelani Ngcuka as well as Leonard McCarthy all of a sudden led to him feeling that actually the case against President Jacob Zuma should be dropped because he will not have a free and fair trial. And this has been the case made by some politicians as well within the ANC, that justice delayed is justice denied. Will the president be able to receive a fair trial considering how long this matter has been running? And the NPA could go to the Supreme Court of Appeal and argue that this is a case of separation of power. Remember that during the High Court arguments as well, the DA did not make the case that they want the charges, that they want the High Court to indicate or rule that the charges be reinstated, but rather to be reviewed. The NPA could argue by the court saying that the decision was irrational, by the court saying there should be a review. In fact, by extension, it is a case of the separation of power, and the court has taken away the powers of the head, the National Public Prosecutor, in terms of when it comes to reinstating charges or when it comes to prosecuting alleged criminals.
All right, Aldrin, let's leave it there for now. Thank you very, very much for updating us on the situation. So it's a big morning this morning as all eyes focusing there on the High Court and, of course, what's happening in Pretoria. So thank you very much to Aldrin Sampear, who will be reporting on that.